Recording and.
I talked to him today.
Are these two things also? No.
Yeah, that's something, I signed it, I think. No, I didn't sign it. It's not that. Brother.
Yeah, the ones on that side have at least two signatures.
So is that all they need?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, no harm.
Yeah.
Like the other things.
That's everything, right? Except for the special letter.
My computer closed, died right when I got here.
So it's 6.
Yes, it's 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Recording
So
started.
I'd like to call the meeting of the Plainfield Select Board to order. My name is Jim Bolts. I'm the chair. With me is Riley Carlson, a board member, and Tim Davis, another board member. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, I don't have any.
Any announcements?
I guess I want to say that as of now, I don't plan to run again at town meeting. So if anybody out there who's listening is interested, definitely get your paperwork in and so on and so forth.
And what about you? You already announced you're not running again.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess we
Right.
we could also say that we aren't sure at this time what the deadline is for filing. Because it seems pretty likely.
January 29th.
That's if town meeting is
Yeah.
on town meeting day, but
No, that's the law.
no, it's the 6th Monday before the election. So it depends on what date.
If we change the town meeting date, then we
No,
change.
you gotta change, the town meeting, you gotta change the election too, because you can have the election on the 5th. And
Yeah.
just change the meeting itself.
Well, the
So you gotta
the
decide.
election of town officers is part of town meeting.
Not always.
Well, we'll make sure that we change
Yeah.
all, of them. Yeah. And then we can talk about that some more when we talk about the Brandt's petition, because you two not being, running again, could create a problem if nobody signs up to take your place. So
Yeah,
hopefully
well,
people will, we can get back to that later. Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? No, okay. Any public comment? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to know, did you receive an email from Riley? With stipulations for rejoining the select board? And if so, why did you not inform the public about this?
I don't know if I did.
I remember the email. He offered to come back. But indicated he was overwhelmed by the number of emails he was receiving. And preferred to have them go to an inbox that he would check once weekly at the town office. To which we, I think, both agreed, and we reappointed him to the select board.
And why wasn't Mr. O'Brien interviewed?
Mr. We didn't receive any of it, no one else contacted me with interest. Oh, O'Brien?
Yeah.
Albert, oh, he is someone that I know that I had kind of pressured into stepping up to fill in just because we had so much on our plate, and when Riley said he was interested in coming back, Albert was very happy to not have to do it. So. He was not, he was just someone that I had kind of recruited. Just
So you're gonna be interested in running to take your place?
we'll see, I mean, I've brought it up to him for sure and
Okay.
put a little pressure on, I just don't have the time with my
Yeah.
two little kids right now for the amount that this entails, so.
Yeah.
I'll be back, I'm sure, at some
Okay.
point in the future.
I'm sorry you're not gonna run again. I enjoyed working with you, and I thought you really applied yourself to
I've been back and forth about it,
provide a good
but
contribution.
now it's a
for
bit hectic.
what we're doing.
I like what Jim said, I think
Yeah.
it's been really great having him on board.
And same for you, speaking for me, sorry to see you go as well. Okay, any other public comment? Is there anybody on Zoom that wants to say anything? I don't see any hands up. All right, town clerk treasurer report, Robin Miller. Is Robin on? Yes, she is. Robin, you're muted.
Hey, give me 1 second.
Sure. I hope people can hear us, but somebody said something about not being able to hear very well.
I think last time we did not have the
We didn't
microphone
use
hooked
that.
up, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I might have defaulted to the camera microphone or to the
We do
laptop.
want to hear.
I think that's
Okay.
exactly what happened.
Go ahead, Robin.
So I don't really have much to report. Carol and I are just kind of going with the flow. We're doing 1099s and W-2s and dog licenses. Remember to license your dog. They're due by April 1st. You know, we're still working on budgets and making sure things are ready for when we have an auditor for the town report. FEMA stuff. There's not a whole lot that's going on. We're just kind of doing what we need to do.
So will you be around for the discussion about the rescheduling the town meeting?
I possibly can. I have another thing happening at around 6:30. I can probably listen, and if you say my name, I can chime in. And I
Okay.
have, but
Do you have any thoughts now on it? Or,
I'm thinking you need to at least delay it till April. That
Okay.
gives you a little extra time. I mean, on our end, we have most things ready. The only thing that we can't finish is one of the financial reports because the cash has not been balanced for last year, and there's numbers from that needs to be put into this report so that it can be finished.
so that's
So
safe for sure until we have an auditor. That's really
Correct.
the thing that.
correct.
Waiting.
And I have been in communication with somebody. He is currently overseas for his job, but I've been talking with him, and it's something that he can possibly, if he could be appointed, we could do it over email, and I can send him everything he needs, and he can do it remotely.
Well, if he's interested, can you want to send something around with his background and an application or something, and then we can take it up at our next board meeting, or even have a special board meeting to do this, so we can get this moving?
Yep, I can. So I had the last communication I had with him today because he had sent me a few more questions about things. And I did speak to somebody today, but they didn't really have a financial background, and they didn't really think that they could. They thought that they were probably setting themselves up to fail, so they kind of didn't want to do it anymore.
Okay.
So
But
I'll send something out about the person I was emailing with.
When they are a resident,
Yes, they are.
and they have some qualifications to do this?
It sounds like he does. Yes.
All right, great. Or at least an interest in it.
Yeah, there aren't any specific qualifications
I know,
that are needed, but I mean, obviously we want someone who is competent and trustworthy
Right.
and
Right.
all that.
Right.
And we can have up to 3 auditors, so if more people express interest, then we don't necessarily have to close the door
yeah,
on.
that person that was worried about it, maybe if this other person signs on, they would be more comfortable working as an assistant to that person in some way, you know, to help get things
Right.
done.
And I did ask it. I did send in the email today something about would he be interested in being put on the ballot, that we could, even though he's overseas, we could. So we did it for one of the listers. We did the petition for her since she wasn't in she's not in Vermont right now. We could get signatures for him if it was something he was interested in. So I'll wait to see what he says to that.
Well, good. Well, I hope he says yes. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else for your report?
I think that's it.
Okay, is Michael Bingham on?
I don't see him on.
Okay. He might be busy.
Yeah. Well, if he sends on, we can always switch.
Okay, so
gears.
I guess we could discuss the petitions that Grant filed. So Robin, you're still on, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great, because we'll start that now. So what we have to decide is I think scheduling some hearings, right?
Yeah, I think as far as the petitions go, the select board doesn't have any authority to change the wording
Right.
or anything. I think in total there have been 6 petitions submitted. One of them is meant to be a replacement for one of them. I don't know if there's some mechanism for withdrawing that first petition.
I don't know either,
Or-
we might have to put the both forward.
Yeah, I think,
The voters.
I think
decide.
at this point, we would have to put them both
That's what
out.
I think.
Is, there might be some mechanism of individual signatories contact the town office to withdraw their signatures until it drops below the threshold.
Right, or if Graham, who put in the first one. would be-
Yeah, I mean,
Would be willing to go
so
around and.
just to be clear what the
Yeah.
issue is, there was a line with one word. I wrote elected officials rather than officials.
Okay,
So I struck the elected officials and wrote officials, so it's
Okay.
one word difference. Now,
okay, then we
now
just
it
leave them
seems
both.
to me, at least the indications that I got from the Secretary of State's office were, it would be surprising, since the substance of the petition is not different, even though the letter of the law says it can't be altered. I got a revised petition, and it would seem to me there must be some mechanism to not confuse voters with two of the same thing, you know.
Yeah, maybe, I'll check with a lawyer to see if there is a mechanism that can do that, otherwise, if we can't.
I would be willing to formally withdraw. You can.
I don't know if you can do that on
Yeah.
your own though, because all these
Yeah.
people signed it,
Mhm.
so, that would be helpful if possible.
You can vote it down. I'm
Well,
gonna,
no, so I think the way to handle it, if we can't get withdraw the one that has the mistake as the extra word, just notify everybody when we go to vote what the situation is, and that we urge them not to vote for the one, but to vote no for the one and vote yes for the other. Or
Right.
however it feels,
Correct, yeah,
you know,
correct.
and then the one that wins, wins.
or at least that's what the petitioner's intention
Right,
was.
right,
Right.
yeah, so there'll just have to be an information campaign about it, maybe a handout it when you go to vote,
Well,
explain.
For these petitions, these are the charter changes, there
Right.
has to be 2 informational
Right,
hearings.
right.
So I
you
think
can
that'd be the
explain
time that the select board and
Yeah.
Graham or whoever can make that recommendation.
Right, yeah, and then,
And-
you know, but people, not everybody will be listening to those
Yeah.
meetings, they'll just show up to vote, and so I think maybe. A little handout that we could give to people that explains the situation might also.
Maybe,
I'll
but
second with it.
I'd be a little wary about handing out stuff. At
Okay,
the
alright.
polling place.
Alright.
Just. I feel like there might be rules. with
You
it.
could go on your own
Well,
Facebook and make like on the Plainfield people maybe that explain the situation and say, if we can't figure out how to get it withdrawn, please vote against this and vote for it.
I wonder, I think just a couple of notes here. One, much of, in talking to much of the municipal law seems to be unsettled law, meaning that there haven't been court rulings regarding procedures.
Yep.
Therefore, when you ask lawyers, and I asked different lawyers on the petitions, you get different answers. Now, I will contact the Secretary of State's office and see
Oh, that'd be
what
good.
they say. He's already indicated that he found it odd that there wouldn't be a mechanism. That's the Secretary of
Yeah.
State's office. So,
Right.
you know, and it seems that you guys haven't officially voted on putting the petitions in the, there have been no sort of votes.
Don't we not
So-
vote?
It's not something we have any control
Yeah.
over. We're required to include them in the warning.
But you do have leeway in terms of editing the, actually, yeah, you,
It's only if there's like
Well,
misspellings
except
or
that
technical
the
mistakes.
legislative body may make technical corrections, and since we've gotten to 2. And since,
Yeah,
did you explain why you submitted the second one when you submitted it, as to what the problem was?
right, it was
Okay, so-
simply to remove one word.
Right, given that, maybe we could make that technical correction, call it a technical correction. Call it a technical correction, make that change, only issue the one without the word. And then if somebody wants to challenge it later because we did that,
Yeah, they can sue us.
yeah, exactly.
Someone wants to go through all that time.
It'd be a lot less confusing.
Honestly,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the thrust, none of this can happen, as I understand, unless it goes to the legislature. So therefore, the
Make it
change
official.
of elected official to officials is just the easiest thing as pie
No, they
in the
can fix it.
legislature.
They
They
can
do
fix it.
16 drafts of a bill a day.
Right, they can
And they
fix it.
change it, they can change that one word easy as pie if they understand that that's what the town's intent is.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't think it's gonna be a problem either
It
way.
goes to the
No, no, but
legislature after the
just to
vote.
be clear, just so you understand, Donnie, there is actually a revised certified correction with all the signatures. So the question is whether to put the one with the error on the ballot.
Right, but they're saying they're obligated to put them both on the ballot. That's
Well,
my
the
understanding,
wording
right?
of this, I'm not a lawyer, but the wording seems vague enough to me that feels like we could take it off the ballot and someone would have to have an objection.
We would call it a
To cause
technical
trouble.
correction and just put forward the one without the word.
Yeah.
And then if somebody wants to sue us, that's my view.
Simplify.
Yeah, that seems.
With that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Charlie Cogbill does ask, will the petitions be voted on the floor or by Australian ballot?
I think they're required for Australian
Yeah.
ballot.
The charter change is Australian ballot. I know that.
I know about the other ones.
I'm not following the other ones.
But we could do, we could do it that way.
But I think
So
people-
can I say something?
Yeah,
So you have 48 hours after the deadline for the petitions to say that if there's any errors or if there's needs to be any corrections, if there's not enough signatures or they're not voters. So you have 48 hours or 48 hours after the petition deadline to file a different petition to fix those errors.
But that didn't happen.
I
It
think
did.
And
So
what
the
was it?
petition deadline was, I think, today maybe.
Oh, okay.
well,
I
for
understand.
charter change petitions, the deadline would have been earlier. Because the way those get warned, you need like 70 days before town meeting.
If we changed town meeting date.
Yeah.
Are you saying 48 hours after they file it, or if it's 48 hours after they file it, then it's been way more than 48 hours, I think.
No, it's 48 hours before the deadline or
Okay.
after the deadline. I'm sorry, after the deadline.
The deadline for filing petitions.
Yes.
So Graham filed a corrected petition, so we can just.
Yeah.
So we're good. I think you're saying we're
Correct.
good.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. So we
Well, I don't know if we
take care of that
answered
issue.
Charlie Cogdell's question. So the charter change will be Australian ballot. The other ones,
Could be voted from on the floor.
yeah, I assume that people would want some opportunity to voice their opinions and discuss that. Instead of just having it be
Yeah.
presented on the ballot.
As long as it's legal to do it that way, I think that's probably a good way to do it.
I would assume that would be the default to do it that way, because I think right now we only do certain things on
Right.
Australian ballot, we elect officers, and then there might be other things that are required by Vermont state law to do by Australian
But the
ballot.
general issues that we decide, like,
Yeah.
fine, done by.
I think the default is to do it from the floor.
Okay,
So only people who attend in person can vote, is that the implication?
Yes,
Not a super big fan of that. I like the idea of the public debate on the floor, but I think we should maybe be having that public debate at these next two hearings. And then everybody in town, whether they have to work that day or not, should be able to vote on whether they want to change that.
I don't know if that's something the select board has
We don't.
the power to
Mm.
do, I mean, we can certainly hold informational hearings.
well, we're gonna have to have two informational hearings on the one anyway, right?
Yeah,
I would suggest that when we do that, we include all of them.
now, I know last year, Charlie Cogwell usually stressed that he prefers that the whole debate for an issue kind of happen on the floor, so that the entire debate is kind of captured in the minutes, and it's one cohesive discussion instead of kind of fragmenting it. So people end up coming to town meeting with kind of different backgrounds.
Yeah. He's on
Yeah,
he's on Zoom if he wants to say anything. If we can do both in the sense of we can talk about those other issues at the other two information meetings on the charter change, but still vote at town meeting.
yeah,
And not have it be Australian ballot, just have it be regular town meeting, but I tend to agree with Tim about how this charter ballot allows more people to participate.
Yeah,
I mean, if it's out of our control, it's out of our control. That should be something maybe we
We
can
can
look
check,
into.
we can check on that with our attorney about the non-charter change issues.
yeah, I'm sure he would know off the top of his head even whether there'd be a still ballot on the floor.
All right, I'll check with him.
Thank you.
Now, are we up to, what else do we want to talk about? We have to talk about scheduling the public hearings, right?
Yeah, I get, well, that kind of ties into when we schedule town meeting, because
Right.
the public hearings need to be scheduled, I think. Between 40 and 30 days in advance. And the first one needs to happen. At least 30 days before town meeting, and the next one within the next 10 days. Or something like that.
Yeah, I have it right here. If the charter proposal is made by petition, the second public hearing shall be held no later than 10 days after the first public hearing. The legislative body shall not have the authority to revise a charter proposal made by petition. And then the something about when the first one is done. The legislative body of municipality shall hold at least 2 public hearings prior to the meeting to vote on the charter proposal. The first public hearing shall be held in accordance with subdivision A2 of the second and at least 30 days before the vote. So we have to have at least 30 days before the vote, maybe more, and then we have to have the second one within 10 days of that. So we have to be fixed the time we can date. We can do this right now.
Yeah,
There's nothing precluding us from doing it too early, right?
The first
And
one
all
can
that
be more than
work.
30 days, but then the second one has to be within 10 days of the first.
Yeah, so, but we could have these 2 hearings like next Monday and then 10 days after that, and then town meeting day whenever.
Right, except that the statute that we're working under is a temporary statute that was put in place under COVID. And that expires in this July.
well, we need to approve, we want to approve the budget before the fiscal year.
Right,
ends,
right.
so there is
Well, I'm
a-
just saying, so we have to have all this done before July,
yeah,
if we want to use this procedure. We can't put off, yes, and we want to use the budget, so we have to do it before July.
Yeah, I would
no,
think that,
I think we would want to schedule it sooner rather than later.
yeah,
Yeah, I
Just
agree.
taking into account what we need
like,
to
I'm
do.
just looking,
But I certainly don't want to delay
So,
town meeting at all.
Robin, do you have a proposal that would be helpful to you as far as when to have the town meeting?
I don't have a suggestion. It all depends on when we have a auditor, really. That is what it comes down to.
All right, so
I guess,
we might not decide at this meeting, we decide at the next, at the February 12th meeting.
yes, when I was looking at the calendar, my thought was maybe to schedule it for the first Saturday in May, which is
Okay.
like May 4th. Is that
My, we can still have the election though. We don't have to postpone the election of the officers. We just have to postpone town meeting. So anything that's gonna be voted on the floor or anything like that is what it needs to be postponed. And because the budget and all that gets voted on the floor. We can still have the election because we still have to hold voting on that day anyways for the school budget, the tech center and the presidential primary. So we still can have the elections on that day.
Except this charter change has to be done by Australian ballot, so and we can't do that one on that day because it's too late now. I feel we're not ready for that. Well, we'll just have to have a special Australian ballot election then, I guess, for the.
I don't think you can do, I think you have to do it at town meeting.
or a
Or
special
a
meeting.
special meeting, so we have to.
Oh, it says a special
Yeah,
meeting? I thought it was only town meeting, but maybe I'm wrong.
I think you can do almost anything if you call it a special meeting similar to town meeting.
I know that it's prohibited to have a special meeting regarding changing the office. Like, for example, if you're voting on changing the terms of the office, that has to be done at the town meeting, according to what I read. So I don't know what the regs are. Once again, a lot of this is not settled law, so you hear different things from different experts. I don't know what it says in writing.
The voting on a charter proposal shall be by Australian ballot. Somewhere I read that it could be at the annual meeting or at a special meeting, but I'm not finding it at the moment.
If you,
Okay.
if you're gonna have a vote, you can't have, it doesn't make any sense to have a special meeting to have a vote from the public on that. Makes absolutely no sense, and all people are gonna get really confused.
It'd be like a special election, really, if it was only something that was being voted on.
We're still gonna get confused. I know what happened last year. Years past. You know, we don't have enough turnout as it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's definitely going to be a vote on town meeting day just for the school budget. So, I think. I think it's unavoidable that some people are gonna be confused this year, just how things are. Hashing out.
Plus, we need, you know, we need people in place as soon as possible.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause we know that 2 of the 3 of you aren't rerunning. We know the town clerk's not running.
yeah,
You know, we don't have an auditor. You know, we need people. So
I don't
we
think
need to
anyone.
aggressively address this and get with the program. You know, we've known some of these things for a while and nothing has been done. This advertising hasn't been done
the positions are all posted.
on social media. That's all I've seen, nothing in the papers or any of that.
It's on
kind of stuff.
the town website, social media. I mean, if you wanna reach people, putting it in a newspaper compared to putting it in social media is like,
Well, I think
Apples and
oranges. Everybody doesn't have social media.
Can I also add that one of the greatest ways to find qualified candidates is through the 7 days employment pages, which go out free in every town and are really comprehensive. It's where anybody goes when they're looking for work. So I recommend that at the very least, if not the Times Article.
I think just a point of understanding regarding the reason for the petitions to begin with. In many of these petitions, in many of these positions, it's a requirement of town residency. So just to be clear, so in terms of the pool of people we're trying to reach, I think once these measures hopefully pass, obviously a 7 days or something like that might be more appropriate.
I just picture an awkward period where we are without some crucial people.
Mhm.
Like a period of time, we're not gonna have a clerk.
That's one of the recommendations that our lawyer made when I told him that rather you weren't running for election. And I thought you were going to be, but we were worried about the issue Bram raised of needing 3 members to have a quorum. He said that, well, you 2 could run and then anybody, and we have the quorum then, and those who don't want to continue serving, after we get the extra 2 members added, can resign. And then those 3 we can, kind of roll over to eventually getting 5, but.
I would be willing to do that,
Okay,
definitely,
that means you
just
have
so
to,
we
that
can,
means you have to.
yeah, so now I have to do my
do
little
a petition
paperwork.
and get it in, yeah,
I'll do that, but
Alright,
with
that'd be
the
helpful.
understanding,
that you're not.
I'm gonna need to step away.
Yeah.
Here it does say notice of each public hearing and of the annual or special meeting shall be given in accordance.
So it says special,
Yeah,
okay, that's right.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I know that the other one is
Yeah.
not a special meeting. I know that the town clerk thing has to be at the town meeting, at least what I read, but
Which town clerk thing?
in other words,
maybe. it's
so
not
there
gonna
are
take-
of the 5 petitions that regard the issue of changing the town clerk treasurer to appointment. One is the charter
Right,
petition. But my understanding was that the other 4 petitions regarding that change can only happen at the town meeting,
Okay.
not a special meeting. That was my understanding, but maybe I'm wrong.
right, I'll check on that. I can understand the reason, because right now their terms expire on town meeting day.
Right.
But on the other hand, if we change town meeting day to a later date, then their terms will also
Right.
extend to that.
And that's why I was surprised that,
Right.
and you may be absolutely right regarding the charter change not being on town meeting day.
Right.
But I was pretty sure that the other ones were.
Yeah, Drew.
I think I'm right. Doesn't all this have to go through the legislature in order to change the charter?
Yeah.
That ain't gonna happen.
After we
That's
vote
not-
on- you guys
So
have to
that's
vote
not
on-
gonna happen this year.
Right, that's why it was recommended that we keep a 3-member board in place. So that, and the way it would work would be when the charter change plan gets approved by the legislature after town meeting day, which we don't know how soon after town meeting that's gonna happen. Then we'll immediately have still 3 members. And then we can move to get 2 more on there, and
Well-
once they're on, the other 2.
The charter change doesn't affect expanding the board.
Right.
That's
Oh,
an
I'm sorry.
addition.
Yes, that's true, sorry.
May I ask, what you're saying is a special vote on town meeting day, and then town meeting itself is moved out to a different date in the future. Why wouldn't you have town meeting on town meeting day, just do what you can do and not the other things you can't do, and then have a special meeting for the votes that are required later? In other words, do town meeting on town meeting day and clear up the things that need to be cleared up in a town meeting atmosphere as soon as possible.
We don't have the town report because it can't be audited, because we don't have an auditor.
We can't have a town meeting without a town report.
That's my understanding anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went through that last year.
Is there a timetable on the audit itself? So in other words, let's assume Robin found someone, they're hired. Is there like some sort of vague timeline on how long it takes?
So now we'd be up to that person, we'd have to wait and see what they.
They would have to be appointed.
Well, plus we'd have to see what they're capable of doing once they get here,
Yeah.
But is there some sort of rough idea that it would take 3 weeks or 4 weeks or?
No, I don't know, but I don't know if Robin asked him, the person who she identified as potentially being interested, who's overseas.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds,
Yeah.
and it sounds like it's gonna be a time consuming thing, because Robin mentioned she'd have to send everything to him, which in my experience, almost 15 years of being a living tax collector, I'm not real keen on that. I just think we need to have somebody in person to go over the books, and then, if there's any questions, because that's gonna create a big mess.
The book's all digital now, isn't that the case?
I don't think they're all up to date and stuff.
Well, there's a transition period where they were paper and now they're digital.
So that would all have to be.
But you can send copies of the paper. I don't think it's a problem. I think that she can send him the documents he needs to see and the electronic versions of it. And he can look it over and.
And as far as the timing of the audit goes, my understanding is that if the auditor kind of runs out of time, then they can include a disclaimer in the report saying that they didn't have quite enough time, they did what they could.
I mean, from my perspective, it would seem like I'm not sure if there's a legal reason that we have to have an audit report before we go forward, but we could put a bulletin together that has the town report, that the information that we have that's unaudited, and just say it's not audited. And then have it get audited later and issue an audit report later as to whether it was okay or.
Yeah, I don't know, I think we would probably wanna check with our town.
Yeah, we could do, whether you can. do
I
that.
reached out to the League of Cities and Towns,
Yeah.
they pretty much just said you have to
You
find
can do it.
someone.
All right, then,
But
if that's what they told you, I'm going to go with that. That's.
it might be another case where you get different opinions from
But,
different.
yeah,
attorneys.
But I'd rather go with the League of Town, Cities and Towns.
Yeah,
Even if I already thought we could do that, I think I'd rather.
yeah, I mean, I would much rather have an auditor
Yeah,
who looks
right.
over it.
Yeah, me too, so would I. I'd rather do that, that's so.
I think people need to step up and
Right,
it might be that we should discuss getting rid of the elected auditor office since no one's willing to do it, but we
Right.
don't need to have that discussion.
Right.
Now,
right, we're going to address something.
Oh, no, I think perhaps, I know that the warning is going to be long as it is, but I might include that you could initiate that change about changing the auditor from appointed to elected. You guys could do that and put it with the warning, and when we vote on things, that becomes part of it too, because I think that's a real, that needs to change.
The ability to hire an auditor. from the
Yes,
town.
yeah, no, I see statute says 3 years, but I think we have 1 year, so I don't know what the difference is, why they would say it.
What do you mean 1 year versus 3
The
years?
term-
In other words, like when I read the state statute regarding hiring an auditor, it mentions a 3-year number rather than, I think we elect the auditor every year or not.
Well, we have 3 open positions.
Right, are
And in
they,
theory, one of them comes up for election every year.
Yeah, 3 years.
but they're 3-year terms, I didn't realize, that.
Yeah,
I thought they were
they're
1 year,
3-year
okay, I
terms.
didn't
Just
know.
like
Okay.
the select.
I didn't realize that.
We've only had one auditor since
Right, okay.
2020, and we have.
But
two
I would
auditors.
definitely formulate language and put that on the warning, just so we have a clean slate of appointed officials. from-
Formulate what kind of language?
In other words, shall the voters cite whatever the thing is regarding the auditor? Basically take some of the language that I used and just change the position and put the statute and put that on the warning as well, so people can vote on that.
Time for that.
So it appointed as to be, as opposed to being elected.
Correct.
Oh, I
Yeah,
do.
so instead of doing it by
So
petition.
the requirements the same?
No, so that would mean that the town would have to hire a certified accountant to do it, so it would be a lot more expensive.
Oh, I know that, but that's what because I would say no, because we got enough expenses already, but, so you wanna change so it doesn't have to be a resident.
Correct. I mean, the thing is, George, is that I can appreciate everybody wanting local people to participate. I'm not against that, but let's look at the reality here. We're faced now with this very confusing situation because we essentially don't have the manpower or people power or whatever to fill these positions. I mean, I don't know if there's an option. I mean, we can keep on plotting the way we're plotting. I mean, perhaps this person, this candidate would fit the bill, be a stopgap for a few years. I don't know.
If they wanted to do it for the rest of their lives, that would be fine.
Maybe perhaps listen to him before you put it on the ballot, but I think
Yeah.
changes in.
Yeah, I think if people end up filing to run for auditor, then I'd probably be inclined to let them take it on, but if nobody files to run, then I think we really need to seriously consider it, but.
Consider opening it up to not being a town resident. Is that what we're talking
Make
about?
it appointed.
Or appointed instead of elected, yeah, and not necessarily being a town.
Yeah.
I don't think an auditor needs to be a town resident. I can see why a select board member would want them to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
The
I
auditor
it could
does-
be impartial,
Right.
it might be beneficial to have someone from a different town,
Yeah.
obviously, because they don't have
But the
the
problem is
vested interests.
the problem is it doesn't pay a lot, so you're doing it in account, essentially something that
It
it's.
pays a lot in the real world.
Right,
even if you keep it elected, but.
yeah, the way it is today.
I don't think anyone would run, and we also probably need a more serious charter change to
Yeah.
open up elected positions to non-residents.
Okay. All right, so what else do we need to discuss about the town meeting? That's the topic.
I would wonder, I have a question, another kind of scheme of how to cover all this stuff, So if and when Robin's term ends or she has to leave to take another job or whatever happens. We'll be without a town clerk for a period of time. We have the assistant town clerk who's not an elected person who knows most of the duties. Would we be able to temporarily hire a part-time person just from anywhere to be their assistant? To like pick up the slack while there is no clerk, or are we supposed to just shut the town down and not pay anybody? No, it's like, yes,
Sorry.
Sorry.
I inquired about that too.
I'm really curious.
Yeah, something that will come up a little bit later is that I'm having a meeting with the Vermont Community Foundation, Plainfield tomorrow. About possible new funding needs that the town might have. And things that might still be post-flood, that aren't addressed. And I raised the question about whether it could include administrative extra administrative money for helpers, and the feeling I got from the clerk's office was that you really need to have a background to be helpful. And it may not immediately solve anything to have an extra person there. It may actually take a lot of extra time to train that person and supervise that person while they're in a learning mode. And right now they're going nuts with already the workload that they have. So it's not necessarily going to be a solution to have another.
No, but he asked the question.
We want someone that was a town.
We have the authority to do it if we want, I'm pretty sure. We can hire somebody
It's
else.
good for an emergency.
But,
But I don't, I think when I talked to the Secretary of State's office, they talked about if you're replacing somebody who's an elected position.
no, that's not what he was asking.
Yeah, it
He
would
was
be
just
kind of a
saying-
technicality, but they wouldn't be the town
I
clerk.
think Kristen is there part-time now, maybe she could step up and help Carol to bridge the gap between when Robin leaves and when we get a replacement for her. And then we could also hire other people, but just, I don't think we need, it's just a question of whether they're actually able to help.
If we're desperate,
Right.
we could try and ask Linda Wells if she'd be willing to work a few hours.
Yeah,
a week,
that's right,
but
she might be willing to come back. and
I don't
work
think
for a
she'd be
while.
excited to do it, but
Okay.
we could ask.
She might be willing to do it.
Twist her arm again.
Is Robin still on the call?
I don't know, I don't see her name there.
Well, okay, because I was gonna say, the other thing is, I believe Chris is working as many hours as she can.
Sure, so she can't step up tomorrow, okay, yeah, that's probably right,
Yeah, but
all right.
you know, maybe there's someone in a surrounding town who's been a town clerk before who would be willing to serve as assistant to
If we
the
define-
assistant.
Carol thinks she needs help, and if they can find somebody who would actually be helpful, we
Yeah,
would have the money because we're not paying Robin anymore if she's left.
yeah,
And we have the authority to hire another person if we choose to, it's just that they won't be the clerk because
Yeah,
that position
that was my
can only
question.
be elected. What about, shall we pick the town meeting tonight or not, the
I
date?
think that we came around to that, we couldn't until we had an auditor.
Is that where we're at?
And
Yeah, it's not gonna, it shouldn't take you that long to get some semblance of an auditor, or like you mentioned earlier. That you really did, you could have the meeting and then take your, and just put in the meeting, in the town report. That this hasn't been audited and move forward. and-
Well, we might be able to do that, that's what, if we had to, but, we need to be able to,
But as of right now, the way things are, I think that it needs to be town meeting itself. I don't see how you can pull it off March 5th.
right,
Yeah,
that seems pretty.
I think that's the one thing that we're sure of, is that
Yeah.
it won't happen on March 5th.
And then, May 4th, which was, somebody mentioned May 4th, that might be a good day, that's a Saturday. I would think most people would prefer to do it on a weekend, right?
Well, last year
I
when
don't
we
think it's any
scheduled,
different than last year,
Oh,
as far as turnout goes.
yeah,
yeah,
okay,
no,
well,
I mean, last year that is.
with all
what
these
happened.
petitions on the ballot, maybe we'll get better turnout than.
Well, you get better turnout, Tim, because it's a presidential primary,
Oh,
and
right,
it always goes from 22% to 90%.
yeah, but that's gonna happen on election day.
yeah,
And we're gonna move our town meeting off of election day, and so there won't be that incentive for people to come.
But that's what I mean, if there's any way possible.
Or we keep it on that day, yeah, no, I don't think
Yeah,
it's possible,
so Jim,
because the petition.
can you confirm with the town lawyer about the making sure that, because I think that the petitions, not the charter change, but the other ones, have to be done on town meeting day. Could just find out what the answer to that is, but maybe I'm wrong.
this topic does sound familiar, but I
Well,
can't remember where.
At least for this year, the select board does have the authority to move our annual
Yeah,
meeting,
right,
which is town meeting.
right. We
Okay,
do it every
okay.
day. This year we can move it, but.
I just don't want the thing where suddenly everything's disqualified because of
Yeah.
technicality, that's the
Yeah.
only thing. that
Yeah,
was-
right, I agree.
I'd like to make a social point that if you have town meeting in the winter or early spring, Saturdays are just as fine as a weeknight. But as soon as you get into planning season, Saturdays immediately become stressful choice. And you might want to consider earlier rather than later if you're going to do it on a Saturday, or if you're going to wait till May to not do it on a Saturday, because I think you really actually have lower participation.
Why would you have a line?
Because people are, that's the 1 day off work or 2 days off work, that's when they're gonna be gardening.
Yeah, but if you do it on a work day, they have work. It's
Yeah, but not many people work past 5.
Oh, have it in the evening.
The polls are open.
Sorry, have it in the evening, okay.
The
Yeah.
polls are open till 7.
Nobody meant in the evening, normally town meeting during the day, so. Yeah, having it in the evening, okay. There's a chair right there. There's one. So we'll take up the. And in all my discussions with the town attorney about these petitions and voting on them. And talking to him about moving our town meeting, he's never said that. we
Okay,
have to
that's
have it
great.
on
No, no.
This year's town meeting.
You know, the problem that I have, Jim, is
Right.
that.
Oh, I
that you
totally.
get, like, I've talked to different lawyers and I get different answers, and
Right.
if it's the town lawyer or the league,
Right.
fine, so.
But I think you may be right that it's supposed to be on town meeting day, but this year, since we're allowed to move town meeting day, when we move it, that'll solve the problem.
Okay, as long as it's solves the problem,
Right, okay.
that's fine.
Okay, so then we're gonna pick the meeting, the town meeting date at our next meeting, is that what we're talking about?
Hopefully, if we have an
Is that-
auditor by then, right?
Yeah,
Okay, we'll wait for Robin to get back to us on that.
yeah, we can, for sure, it won't be much, but it'll be delayed,
Right.
probably to sometime
Right.
either April or
I'll
early
probably
May.
pay for that, it's not gonna happen.
There's a hand up on Zoom.
Yeah.
uh,
Okay. All right,
Hi,
so-
just,
yes,
sorry, I didn't know if you'd recognize me, sorry.
that's right, you're Mo Lynch.
Yeah, hi, I was just gonna comment with the discussion about the timing for a rescheduled town meeting day, since we went through this whole process last year. The folks at least present voted for a Saturday morning, so that might be something to
Yes.
go with if you need to do it again. I think everything has its problems. A work day during the day is obviously extremely difficult for most people to get to. Week nights are gonna be difficult for folks perhaps with kids and activities and such, and just might want to use the data we had from last year.
Yes, thank you for reminding us of that.
Yeah, but
I
that's
forgot
kind of
about
my
that.
thought,
Right,
like looking back at last year.
yeah. Okay, Saturday,
Oh,
so whenever we move it to, I think we should move it to Saturday morning.
Yeah, that should we, is Michael Bingham on now?
Michael is sitting right, Michael Bingham, no, I don't see him.
I think he might be the phone number.
So Michael, are you on the
I'm
phone? Yeah, you wanna do your report?
I don't have much for a report,
Good,
other than Mother Nature's keeping us busy.
yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing the great, tell you guys and everybody else on the road crew are doing a great job, thank you.
Probably helped took some of those ash trees down for you.
Yeah, not too many of them.
Uh,
All right, then, so that's it for your report then?
The only other thing that I have would be the nonstop parking on the streets for cars that seem to be parking on the edge of the road when we have to plow and whatnot. They seem to be a lot of the same vehicles. There's also a blue, I think it's a Volvo. It's an older one. It's got antique plates on it. Looks to be like it's not inspected or, it does have a registration sticker on it, like it's an antique plate. So that's been up there for a long, long time. And there's
I'm
also
sorry,
a
up where?
That's
Alright.
the parking ride.
Okay, thanks.
it's a nice car. I see that car. around.
It's a blue,
Traditionally,
blue Volvo sedan, 4-door.
Is there something?
And there's also a white Toyota pickup parked in the Mill Street parking area that's been there for a long, long time. I noticed within the past week or so, it's moved down a couple spaces, and I saw Christopher Keith's business card in the window. I don't know if he ever made contact with him, but that truck has no registration or insurance, and it appears that it's not road legal. So I'm not sure if he's made contact with the owner or not.
So is there something you want us to do about this? Is that why you're bringing it up?
I'm just bringing it up because it seems to be a nonstop issue all winter long. I mean,
Okay.
along with like 6 or 7, 8 other cars that park on Main Street and Mill Street almost every night as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we can do except to let our constable know, I suppose. But yes, George,
Absolutely. When I was constable, I did one morning and they got towed.
okay,
You know, and that spreads fast and that solves the
Right.
problem.
Yeah, I think the issue, we've talked about this several times, I think the issue is that we haven't found anyone willing to make the rounds to put the tickets on the
Well,
car.
that's the constable's,
Yeah,
one of his deals.
do we have a constable currently?
Yes.
I do believe Robin put some tickets or some warnings on some of the cars, one storm after I brought this up last time. And
Okay.
the cars just seemed to keep parking on the road, but nobody ever put another ticket or a warning on their cars either.
I recall one previous time, a while, maybe last year, not recently, where one issue we had was we couldn't find anybody who was willing to tow them without charging us for it. You know, the way it used to work, you get towed, they take you to a lot somewhere, and in order to get your car back, you have to pay the guy who towed it, and more recently, or last year sometime when we wanted to do this, we were told that there wasn't anybody who would tow on that basis, so they wanted to be paid. Because what happens is you tow a junk car to someplace, and then the person doesn't want it, they don't pick it up, and then you're stuck with problems.
Guess we need to buy a town.
Anyway, so we could check into this further, I guess, talk to Robin about. If she's issued warnings to go ahead and have them towed, she can.
Is the constable doing constable duty?
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I could go around and get all the license plate numbers and call the Washington County Sheriff's Department, and they'd be more than happy to give me the owner of who's the car is registered to, but I just don't have the time to be able to do so and go and ask these people not to park on the streets. I mean, that's kind of why the constable's part of the town anyways. That's
Okay.
kind of his job.
Yeah, no, it is. You're absolutely right. The problem is, we've had trouble finding a constable and keeping them, so,
We currently have one.
yes,
And they get a stipend or something, so.
yeah, they
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
So it should work.
Agreed.
Yep. All right, we'll talk to the constable. I or Robin will talk to the constable about it. It's,
The other
Yeah.
issue, I noticed that the food in the parking lot issue has raised its head again,
Mm-hmm.
and you should bring that to the attention of the constable.
the which,
Food, we have a lunatic person who throws food waste in the parking lot, which creates rat problems.
Oh,
This is a real, it's been going on for
in the parking
years.
lot on Mill Street or the parking lot?
Parking lot.
I think
Yeah.
the rec field is what.
Yeah, I keep hearing
Yeah.
about that too.
I notice it all over town. It's all over the place.
And that really needs to stop.
Yeah, I don't know how we stop it though.
Right, no, well,
Game
I think people
cameras.
know who it is, and I think it's an issue of communicating.
So we need to get social services of some kind involved.
I mean, I'm not sure what this disorder is, but it's something's really off.
Is Jody Goulart is still a health officer? That's also falls under that group there.
Good point.
She did some very nice job with the discarded needles in the parking lot last summer, and I think that's the kind of thing she's willing to step up for.
All right, maybe we should.
Especially if you can identify the person.
Yes, I know, like it's a tough one, respect everybody's privacy, but it's hard to do anything. Maybe, is there a way to above board share that information privately and not at an open meeting?
Yeah, we could talk to Jody Velarde and let her know
Okay.
who it is. You volunteering to do this?
Yeah, I'll reach out to her,
Great,
and then maybe somebody can clue me in on who the person is that they should be reaching out to.
okay.
Whoever knows, can anonymously.
That's nothing like that. Anything else for the road foreman report?
No, I don't believe so, unless you guys have something for me.
No, I think we're good. I have anyone.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
Michael.
thanks, Michael.
Yep,
All right.
thanks. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah,
You
you're up to emergency management, right? Update from Michael.
Yeah. It's the time,
Yep.
okay? Is this a good place to speak from?
Yeah, the speaker's right there. Thanks.
If anybody at home can't hear, just raise your hand and let us know, and we can try to reposition.
It's not gonna be perfect, but.
I have one quick request before I launch it.
Guys, can you go out in the hall before you start talking?
I'm town moderator.
That's my job. That's what I'm willing to do.
Sorry, Neil.
That's the story of the day.
I will have one bookkeeping request, that is literally a bookkeeping request. When I submitted my budget proposal for next year, which is probably gonna be somebody else's budget, because I probably won't be emergency management director. To illustrate how the monies would need to be spent, I broke down what I thought would be the expenses for the emergency operations center and the emergency management director and the shelter as 3 different groups of expenses. Robin wrote me after that and said that she had to create 3 different budget categories for those. And I said, no, please don't do that, because the emergency operations center and the emergency management director, they're basically the same thing. That a printing, if she gives a printing expense only to the emergency operations center, then I don't have money in my hand with which to print flyer. And unless it were emergency operations center. So as it stood last year, there were only 2 budget lines. There's a shelter and the emergency management director, which included the EOC, or the emergency operations center. And I couldn't get from her that she actually wouldn't do that change. And I don't want it to be that way next year. I want the budgets to be as they were in the prior year, with a shelter line and emergency management director line. And no breakout to the emergency operations center, just have it all over.
Why is that a problem? I'm not following you.
Because when you make an expense or ask for reimbursement for expense, it has to be under its budget line.
Right.
And if I go out and print some flyers as emergency management director, and they're not for the EOC, Robin basically would be within her rights not to pay me. I want to be reimbursed for out of pocket and expenses.
Why wouldn't they be under that? Well, wouldn't it be under, so there's the EOS, what were the 3 categories she went?
Emergency operations, she separated out against my request, emergency operations center and emergency management director.
Okay.
And the emergency management director basically runs the EOC.
Right.
But
So if you're submitting
expenses that are
expense-
not EOC. I mean, the EOC is one of the things I do.
Right.
So if I have to put out a flyer in town meeting and it costs $50 to print, I definitely need to be able to do that without billing it to the emergency operations center. I'm just trying to be clear. They don't want the budget breakout that,
But we should talk about this when she's here, so we can understand why she thinks it's better to do it the way she wants.
I think we'll need to discuss the budget at a future meeting,
Yeah.
anyway, to finalize it, so
Yeah.
we'll make sure
okay,
to
well, when it gets to that, then
to
just.
address that then.
Yeah, so I'll do really quickly a few things, and then the bigger item is the buyout, and we have some pretty good news for that.
Yeah.
As you probably have already seen. First, the question was about landslides. And what I am aware of is that the breaking away of the bank next to Route 2, the one that's the pull-off parking area, picnic area, excuse me, coming into town from the west. The cracks that are opening up, and I've done probes down into the holes to determine what's happening under there. There's serious water drainage. There's holes this big that go down to an unknown depth that are basically feeding water into a sheeting away chunk of land. The land's getting ready to slide. It's going to take the picnic table. It's already taken the fence to the tree behind the picnic table.
Okay.
And so the state of Vermont has informed me that they have a 40-foot tolerance from the center line of the highway for anything that would be considered a landslide before they close the highway.
Yeah.
It's less than that.
Okay.
So I'm just saying as a warning to townspeople and to the select board that in the spring, if there's more, especially if there's more movement, which I'm pretty sure there will be as soon as it unfreezes, the town will probably be faced with having everyone detour up to Route 214 and then down 14 to East Montpelier.
And then close Route 2.
Close Route 2.
So why is it our responsibility and not the state's?
We're not gonna do it. I'm just saying
Just-
ahead of time.
Just,
a
it's
warning.
just making us aware of it.
Oh.
Obviously, it would be the state's responsibility to
Fix
fix it or
But-
come up
but-
with a solution.
But they may close the road before that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, basically,
Rather than fix it
I'm not
now.
gonna wait for it to
well, they,
slide.
they can't really fix it right now, in the
Okay.
middle of the winter.
Yeah, true. I didn't announce it on that, this year.
This is just like being warned that there's gonna be a closing of the bridge or something. This is gonna be a huge inconvenience. And
Right.
one of the things I have to add to this is that They were going to, in the fall, once they heard about the landslide and saw evidence of it, they were gonna bore to find out how separated the soil was and what kind of layers they are. They determined that doing that would cause it to.
Oh, wow, okay.
So they backed off on that. I had to chase somebody away who actually ignored all the signs and went in and tried to picnic on that table, even though there was a broken away cliff only 2.5 feet away. And I think while they were there, a tree fell.
Wow, okay.
And they left. But it's a very active situation. So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
The second landslide that will potentially be a problem for the town is on Brook Road. Downhill from Cory Cochran's house. So this is the third bridge after the road turns to dirt. What will happen there, it already happened twice in December, and when we had that heavy rain at the very beginning of December, is that a landslide came down, blocked the brook, and the brook backed up all the way to the Brook Road. This is below the bridge. What I was warned by the engineer from Emergency Watershed is also that if the brook exceeds like a 5-inch or 6-inch rainfall upstream from it, it may actually not be able to get under that bridge. There may not be enough clearance for the brook to go through, in which case we'll also back up upstream and close off Brook Road in that direction.
Thanks, okay.
And we should be aware that we should have George Springston report regularly on that. I think he's going to do that, but I believe we have to keep an update on that and not be caught by surprise.
And if you talk to him,
I have spoken with him, but he has an official role, and I think just a letter of course would be a good thing.
from us, from the select board,
For the select board, yeah.
okay. Can you just send us an email?
I could send you a draft. I could just send you a draft that somebody can sign it.
That'd be great, that'd be great. Okay.
That's perfect. So,
So I'm authorized to sign this draft. I move
Yeah.
that I be authorized to sign this when it comes. All in favor?
Uh,
Okay, great.
okay. And then the other quick stuff is, I just found out today the Goddard is closing down all of its residential.
Yeah,
that's,
And what that means for us is that, first of all, at least 10 people are gonna lose their jobs. Many of them are Plainfield residents, so this is gonna be a stressor for the town.
Yeah.
I know some of those people.
Does that mean the cafeteria is gonna close too?
Yes,
Okay, so right now it's open to the public at certain times.
I don't think there's gonna be a cafeteria, cafe.
Okay,
Yeah, they're just dismissing the whole staff.
okay,
it's like the beginning of April or
Yeah,
something.
okay.
Yeah, and also presumptively the housekeeping staff and maybe some of their supervisory people.
okay.
I wrote a letter to one of the supervisory people today to ask him if he already knows if he's gonna go, but it's gonna create crisis, and I just want you to hear that. The other thing is that we have to move our shelter supplies out of the hay barn before the 1st of April. That's where I've been keeping them, with the permission of the facilities director there, but this is gonna change a whole lot if they shut down. Somebody in the select board suggested that we put it in the barn across from the Opera House, but that doesn't belong to the town. The town that belongs to the Opera House.
Friends of the Opera.
Depends on the Opera House. So what I'm going to propose is not today, but for your action, and I'm warning you just that it's likely, is we need to build a floor underneath the Opera House stage. There's an opening big enough to store everything, but the only thing on the floor right now is sand with a vapor barrier, and you can't walk on it.
Yeah.
So to build a low-tech floor out of plywood, and I think the Opera House is willing to share the price of that, be friends of the Opera House. So
To store what again?
Emergency shelter supplies.
shelter supplies, things
Okay.
like cots, blankets.
Right, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and all that stuff. So that's coming up. Now let's see if I have anything else to say. Oh, that meant, I mentioned a meeting with the Community Foundation next week, next Tuesday, to discuss. And I wondered if the select board needed to authorize Allison Merrill to be there, our grants manager, or did she just do it on her initiative?
A meeting of the Plainfield Community Trust.
Now, the Vermont Community Trust, which is a big funder for towns like 50,000, 80,000, and things like that.
Is she willing to go? We talked to her?
I haven't spoken with her yet
Okay.
because I thought that her time was paid for by the town, and I didn't know if she has to be authorized to involve herself.
Well, if she's willing to go and she wants to be paid, yeah, we have to.
If Alice feels that it's
Yeah.
a good use of her time, then
Yeah, I'm in
I
favor
think
of that.
she's been a pretty good judge of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll just leave it up to Alice, and I'll discuss it with her.
Well, tell her that she has our authority, we've authorized her to do it.
Yeah,
She wants to do it.
if she feels
All right.
it's worthwhile.
Okay, good enough. There are, some other matters that are coming up, one of which involves Plainfield School. And I'm kind of holding fire on that because the superintendent doesn't want me
Okay.
to get terribly involved with it, but we do have some, problems to, address there. The, last thing is the, buyout program. So this is gonna involve, you, authorizing something. In the early months of the buyout program, I had a total of 10 families that were property owners who wanted to be bought out. That is now down to 4. So we have one property owner with 2 properties. I'm not gonna name them here. One property owner with a multi residential building. One property owner with a private home and that he lives in, and one property owner with a private home he does not live in and out. So a total of 5 properties and home between 4 people. In the time that I've been waiting for things to settle down, the program itself has changed. And when I first discussed the program and got your authorization for Plainfield to be involved, it meant that Plainfield would put funds out, and you asked where those monies were going to come from. Yeah. Put monies out, which then would be reimbursed within a relatively short period of time by FEMA through, and the funds are being managed by Vermont Emergency Management. They're the FEMA agents. Vermont Emergency Management changed the relationship with FEMA and acquired more authorization to expend those funds right up front. So what now will happen is that the town does not have to put money in things. We are just simply the secondary agent of the program. We will be asked to specifically be at the closing when the land is actually purchased from the property owner. And we will be asked to authorize any appraisals, tax stuff that would occur that might impact the tax base, basically to keep us informed. It's very pro-town, this change. It's very, very pro-Plainfield. It means we do not have to put out the money for the demolition. We do not have to find a contractor for the demolition.
Yeah, great.
The state will do that. They will find the appraiser. They will hire the appraiser. You don't have to do that.
We just have to maintain the property after we get it.
Yes, we have to guarantee that it will be green space. And so the agreement that we're being asked to sign is basically saying that you agree to be that safekeeper of the green space. So there's a printable copy for you to sign, future. And I believe everything that might have been a hesitation to participate in the past has been resolved by this change. And
When do we need to sign it by?
I would recommend we sign it now.
Okay, because I gotta read it.
Oh, I sent it out on Friday.
Oh,
There's a memorandum of understanding.
maybe I read it.
They sent you a copy. on
Oh,
Friday.
yeah, you did, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, no, I think I did read it.
yeah, I read it, I didn't have any problems with it, I think it's
Yeah,
great.
I didn't know this was the same.
Yeah, I was already on board
Right,
with
so-
it, how it originally was, so
We-
this is even better than us.
Did you want to say anything about this? Or you?
I'm listening.
Okay,
No, because like I said, this takes a lot of the burden off
Yeah.
the town,
right.
so,
Anybody want to make a motion?
yeah, I'll move that we approve the memorandum of agreement between Plainfield and Vermont Emergency Management regarding the buyout program.
All in favor?
Alright,
Aye. Great. And then am I authorized to sign it?
Yeah, you're the chairman.
Now, is this part of the information that you sent me? No, it's okay. This is the town. What I said in the cover letter to you, Greg, is that there was no that action on your part in terms of sending in the forms would have to wait until the town did this. So the town is doing it now, which means the door is open for you.
So
Will
The
those
forms,
formalities be altered for me?
no, the forms that sent you to sign will then be going actually to Vermont Emergency Management rather than to me. And I will clarify that once we get this set up and you will actually be dealing with the people who are handling the money.
Okay. Sounds like a streamlining.
Now, how soon do you need those?
Yeah. So is that, did I make it clear?
I think ask how soon you need those.
There are 3 forms that each homeowner has received, or the property owner has received. And they, thank you. And they attest to, things like are there hazardous materials on the property, you saw that. And when, the town is now, agreed to be basically a fiscal agent and a subcontractor for this job of transitioning properties from private ownership to town ownership. That's what's gonna happen. If the state does its inspection, determines the appraisal, and comes up with a figure that is agreed upon by all parties, it's still voluntary. If you submit those forms, or any other property owner submits those forms, that signals that you want to be included in the program. And the program will then deal with you directly and find an appraiser. And the appraisal for the pre-flood value of the property will then be affixed, and then you will be made an offer if you qualify and it goes forward.
Can you identify your name for the recording so our minute taker can accurate, it looks like who you are in the minutes?
What's that?
What's your name?
I forgot my,
Your name.
You're.
You can just
Identify yourself, please.
Oh,
yeah,
so sorry. Yeah, so could you just state your name?
Gregory Ivy.
Gregory Ivy. Okay, great. We wanted it for the recording.
Yeah, that's
Thanks.
Yeah.
So if I understand correctly, the next step is I will notify the program, the state program, that this has been signed and send them this as proof of that. And they will then be open to any property owner in Plainfield who has already gone through the preliminary review. And that includes you. So I would inform you who to send those forms to. And you would send them in and you would be then a candidate property.
Okay, I believe it's required that other signatures are on those forms, other than mine.
I'll look at that, and if you want to discuss it with me, that would be fine. The second question I have for the select board to close this out is, up to this point, I have been the informal agent for the town with this program. Now that we've formally approved the town's relationship with the state, and we are prepared to enter this contractual phase, the town should appoint a buyout coordinator. In other words, someone whose job it is to, work with Greg and the other property owners to formalize the relationship, keep track of each stage of the buyout, be prepared to assist the state if they ask the town for assistance, even if it's just land records, and go back into the town office if need be, and maybe bring things to the select board if need be. And there is no such person now. There's no property coordinator, buyout coordinator. There's only just me acting as emergency management director on behalf of the property owners. I had suggested possibly Alice Merrill because my term ends on town meeting day.
Is she interested in this?
I don't know.
Yeah, she said she was gonna phase out of doing grant work, so I suspect she may not be interested.
It is something to be aware of, though.
So we should look for somebody who might be doing.
If you could, yeah,
Capacity.
if you talk to anybody,
I mean, I'm willing to
you
get
get
the
the
word
word
out.
out, and if you're willing to do it, that would be great.
Well,
Yeah.
until, as long as I'm emergency.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But I think that we should think of this as a year-long process that will probably between appraisal, demolition, transfer property and demolition. And close out. It took about a year to do the property up on Cameron Road, about 5 years ago. And I think a year is probably a good window. So somebody who would be available for a year.
Okay, so and you're not gonna be emergency management director beginning at
Because you don't want to be anymore, is that?
I definitely don't want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then,
Day one.
and then, that you're thinking that you're gonna phase out of that at town meeting or before?
My term ends at town meeting.
Okay. And do you know if Ms. Guarino is interested? Is that her name?
I have 3 people, no, not just 3, I have 2 possible people. I will continue as emergency management director if I can find an assistant.
Okay,
But if I can't find an assistant, then you need to find somebody new.
okay,
And I'm not getting really any eager response from anybody.
yeah,
Seems to be a common theme.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but there's still a few weeks to work on this and I'm going
All right, thanks.
Well,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Yeah. Thanks for all you're doing, Mike.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any other questions about this?
No, I'm good.
I think that's my list.
Okay, great.
Okay, I want to really put, other thing I wanted to say, I forgot, Red Cross sponsored their first training since COVID. And, about 3 weeks ago in Barry, for shelter management. And I took that training because even if I'm not gonna be emergency management director, I have to prepare a team. We've got to have a shelter and we need a team running that shelter. And so I went, it was really clear that the, electronic backup of whatever we needed to submit, there's a lot of forms involved. You don't have people wandering around shelter who haven't filled out forms and saying, I'm here. It's sort of like going into a school. You need to identify yourself at the front desk. And so I absorbed all that as at least as much as I could. But I also understand that I'm going to have to call for shelter volunteers. And I think the timeline is good. This is just a heads up of something good. But I think Alice and I both feel we're going to get that generator. So it's a pretty big grant. It's like $30,000.
Wow, cool, great.
I think we're gonna get it, in which case it will be installed in May. So I'm looking at as the time frame for opening the shelter officially. In other words, for saying Plainfield at the shelter.
Okay,
We've got to have those people trained beforehand. We need at least 20 people, and that's not an exaggeration. We had 24 workers and 3 management people in the last shelter. So about 20 people roughly in all to get trained and also to purchase supplies, to upgrade the building, and there's some ADA stuff that's in the process of happening. It's going to happen in the spring. Michael's going to try and get a contractor to redo the front handicap parking space and stuff. So all these things are also something I'm keeping my eye on and trying to coordinate. And if everything goes well, we should have an official shelter by June. That's not fair. I'm crossing my fingers.
great. All right, great, thanks. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you.
Just, yeah, thank you. Discuss request to complete US Census 2024 boundary and annexation survey. Anybody familiar with that? I think it came to me and I sent it around. I haven't looked at it recently.
I think we got a lot scheduled, but we actually submitted it. I think it's more if we're changing our town boundaries
I'll do it.
or adding new territory.
All right, so somebody should take a look at it and see if there's something we actually need to do. Is that, should I do that? And should I volunteer to do that, or?
Did they send you an email about it, right?
I think that's why it's on here, because I think I sent an email to Kristen or somebody. I think I sent it around to everybody and said we need to discuss this. So that's why it's on here, and I didn't review it before today's meeting.
Yeah, I think this maybe came from Kristen, so
Uh,
maybe we have to bump it to next meeting, which
Yeah.
attend, since none of us seem to know
yeah,
what it's
talk
about.
about it next meeting. Okay, I can find the email about it. All right, so the Stitzel and Page thing, that's the next thing on the agenda.
Yeah.
Have we-
This is for water and wastewater.
Right, so they want, they. Has anybody looked at this? Does anybody want to look at it?
I mean, I talked with Carol about
Okay.
it.
And if you're comfortable with it?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm good.
all right, so so we want to make a motion to approve by signing this?
I move we approve this letter of engagement for legal services from Stitzel Page and Fletcher regarding the bond vote for Plainfield School Street water project.
Okay, all in favor?
Alright,
Alright,
Am I authorized to sign it?
yeah,
Okay, thank you, can do that. Actually, I looked at it too, and it came circulating now. All right. Have a think about it. Approval of warrants and fleet permits. Anybody want to make motions for these things?
Sure, I move we approve the accounts payable dated 1/12/24.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move we approve the payroll dated 1/11/24 and 1/18/24.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move we approve the fleet permits for Borns Incorporated out of Morrisville, Newport Sand and Gravel out of Newport, New Hampshire, and Barrett Trucking Company out of Burlington.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
I'll move we approve the draft minutes dated 1/8/24.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have one final motion that needs to be made. It's right there.
Yeah.
Move we adjourn.
Okay, good. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
7:20 PM.
Okay.
Want to.